The public comment period is now open on the public charge proposed rule. This is a rule that was released by the Trump administration in late September, but formally published in the Federal Register on October 10th, thus starting the 60-day public comment period. The public charge proposed rule is that administrative rule. It didn't go through Congress. This is a rule written by the Department of Homeland Security that makes major changes to the definition of public charge. It broadens it to include non-cash benefits. Now, public charge is a definition of whether or not an individual arriving in the United States as an immigrant would be a burden to the finances or the security of citizens in the United States. And this is something that dates back to the 1800s or even earlier in our immigration history, as a way to try to regulate who's coming in and out of the country. Now, public charge has evolved over the years, mostly in the form of guidance, not as an actual administrative rule with administrative definitions that have been registered. So this is an attempt to put in writing a definition of public charge as someone that is receiving non-cash benefits, so things like Medicaid, Medicare Part D, food assistance, housing assistance would be considered to have those used as a negative factor when you're trying to change your immigration status, either seeking entry or changing to permanent residency. Now, comments are accepted for the next 60 days, so that means through December 10th. Now, as we said, the Department of Homeland Security is the agency that is pushing these changes. It helps expand the Fed's ability to deny visas or residency to someone who has received non-cash assistance. And in the past, the rule was if you receive cash assistance, this could be used against you. But that impacted such a very small number of immigrants. It was very hard to qualify for cash assistance, like TANF programs, as an immigrant coming into the United States, that it really didn't have that big of an effect. So the administration has been trying to tighten its immigration policy, and this is one of the ways they're trying to do it. The biggest impact will be on new arrivals, individuals seeking to immigrate to be with their families. Now, we have a separate video that goes into much more detail about the elements of the proposed public charge rule, and you can visit that on our library. But for now, we're going to be talking about a little bit of the impact as proposed in this new language and how to comment. One of the things you will find if you read the proposed rule is language saying that immigrants that come to the United States and use benefits such as Medicaid, food assistance, housing assistance are a burden, and this is a change to promote self-sufficiency. It's very condescending language that appears and is pervasive through the 500-page rule as it appears. The impact of this rule, as defined by the administration, as defined by the Department of Homeland Security itself, is one that could worsen health outcomes by keeping immigrants that are right now in the current status eligible for Medicaid, food assistance, housing assistance, energy assistance. If we were to take that away from immigrants coming to the United States, the rule itself said we're going to see worse health outcomes. We're going to see people using emergency rooms more. We're going to see reduced prescription adherence and malnutrition, especially for pregnant women and children. We're going to also see an increase in uncompensated care when people don't have a coverage source. If you take away Medicaid, if people do use the emergency room for care, they might not be able to pay for that service. So we would see an increased burden of unpaid medical bills going in through the healthcare system, which gets passed on to everybody else in uncompensated care increases, which means the cost of healthcare also increases. And then the proposed rule goes on to say we would also see productivity and educational attainment rates drop, and an increase in poverty and housing instability. Huge impacts by taking public benefits and social supports away from families that are right now entitled to those programs. And we didn't say these are the outcomes that could happen. This is what the Trump administration said are the outcomes that will happen if this proposed rule becomes final. So what can you do? The comment period is now open. It runs through December 10th. You can send a comment by email, and that is the preferred method, is to go through their online system at regulations.gov, or you can put a letter in the U.S. mail. It must be postmarked by December 10th. If you are using that U.S. mail route, give a couple of days to get there. They will have to read it if it is postmarked on the 10th. Try to get comments out a little sooner rather than later. That online registration, that online comment is much faster. It's instantaneous. All comments submitted, whether online or by U.S. mail, become public. So please make sure they are appropriate. They offer critique or compliment that is done with courtesy. And keep in mind that this is something that will be evaluated. The feds have to review every comment that comes forward. To make it easier to make sure that the feds know you're commenting on this proposed rule, please use that DHS docket number, and we have that bolded on the screen. The DHS docket number is how they're going to know that your comment attaches to this proposed rule. There are a lot of proposed rules out there right now, so make sure that your comment gets lined up with the accurate one. Please also indicate the agency that your comments should be directed to is the Department of Homeland Security. Those two things should appear at the top of your comment, whether it's online, by email, or in U.S. mail. Make sure you have that docket number and the agency as being Department of Homeland Security. And again, remember that December 10th is your deadline. What happens after that? Well, this is that 60-day comment period, closes December 10th. Department of Homeland Security has an opportunity to review all of the public comments that come in, and there will be many. The rule will be promulgated as a final rule after any revisions are made after that public comment period closes. So there's a time delay there. They have a little time to take those comments into effect and make tweaks, if any. They also have the opportunity to pull the rule if they think there's enough negative comment against it. That's very rare, but it's still on the table. A final rule, once promulgated, will go into effect 60 days after publication of the final rule. So the public comment period takes us to December 10th. DHS has a little time to decide what they're going to promulgate as a final rule. The effective date would be 60 days after that, so that takes us into 2019 if it is effective. After that, you can bet there have been some immigrant rights and advocacy groups that promise litigation. Make sure you read that proposed rule in the link that we provide you on that proposed rule. They also remind you of those instructions of how to submit your public comments. You can always send us a comment or a question, and you can reach us at healthwatchwisconsin.org.